discretion is advised.
Man charged with the demise of errand laborer. A Palo Seco man has been charged with the murder of errand laborer Jeremy Rampersad. Ashmir Bihari, 23, of School Road, was charged with the offense on Friday following advice received from Acting Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, Joan Honor Paul. Bihari is expected to appear in a virtual hearing before a superior magistrate on Monday. Rampersad, 29, of Area Village, was last seen at his home on April 23 and reported missing by his wife to the police 2 days later. During investigations to locate him, Bihari was questioned by police in connection with his disappearance. Bihari allegedly told investigators that he stabbed Rampersad during an altercation in a bushy area at School Road. He allegedly led officers to Rampersad's burnt remains in Palo Seco last Thursday. Investigations were supervised by Inspector Maharaj, Sergeants Jones and Elvin of the Homicide Bureau of Investigations Region 3. Bihari was charged by PC Ali of HBI Region 3. Man arrested for sexual assault of runaway minor. A man who allegedly raped a 13-year-old runaway girl staying at his home has been arrested by police. The girl was rescued by police and taken into the care and custody of the Child Protection Unit CPU of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service TTPS. The man was charged with 7 offenses, including sexual penetration. He is expected to appear in a virtual hearing before a superior magistrate today. The man was arrested on Saturday by officers of the CPU and the TTPS Southwestern Division. According to police, around 3 p.m. on February 24, the girl ran away from her home and went to the home of the accused. Whilst there, the man reportedly raped her several times. On Saturday, police received information and Sergeant Taylor and other officers went to the man's home and arrested him. Female SRP granted bail for sexual assault of minor. A special reserve female police officer has been granted $150,000 bail after appearing in the Port of Spain Magistrates Court to answer to the charges of 1 count of sexual penetration, 2 counts of sexual touching, and 3 counts of perverting the course of justice. According to police, SRP Solange Griffith was ordered not to communicate with the victim and his aunt by Magistrate Indar Jagu as part of the conditions of her bail. It is alleged that on August 2, 2020, a 15-year-old boy in the company of his aunt arrived at the Child Protection Unit Port of Spain and reported that on December 26, 2019, while at Quarry Street, Laventille, a special reserved female police officer allegedly squeezed the boy's genitals. The boy further reported that on January 1, 2020, while at the home of the officer, she allegedly had sexual intercourse with him against his will. The boy also recounted that sometime in April 2020, while at his home, the woman took his right hand and placed it inside her private parts. The boy's aunt reported to police that on 3 separate occasions during the period March 31 and July 2, 2020, she allegedly received various sums of money as payment from the woman to forego making a report about the incidents. The matter was investigated by WPC Dionarin, who conducted inquiries which led to the arrest of SRP Griffith on April 29. She was charged on May 3. The investigation was spearheaded by W Superintendent A.G. Claire Guy Allen and supervised by ASP A.G. Roberts and Inspector A.G. Lopez. The matter has been adjourned to June 1. Young promising doctor's sudden death. A selfless and dedicated doctor whose main objective was always to deliver quality health care to his patients, even at the risk of his own life, died on Saturday. Dr. Shival Suyanarin, now entering the prime of his life at 33, was described as a humble soul who was kind and gentle. He died on Saturday morning at the Accident and Emergency A&E Department of the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex in Mount Hope. His death came hours after he was admitted with acute respiratory distress syndrome, and it is believed that a rapid deterioration of his condition led to his passing. Suyanarin's death came as the country faces a staggering surge of COVID-19 cases that has left the healthcare system on the brink of collapse. The country recorded the highest number of daily new cases to date on Saturday since the pandemic began last year at 402. A grave concern was the number of deaths recorded over a 24-hour period at 7, the second time this tally has been recorded since COVID hit our shores last year. The doctor, a former Hillview College graduate, was previously employed by the Northwest Regional Health Authority, NWRHA, confirming that a young doctor did die hours after he was admitted to the EWMSC North Central Regional Health Authority, NCRHA. Chief Executive Officer Davlin Thomas extended condolences to Suyanarin's family. Other hospital sources close to the case claimed that when Suyanarin turned up at the hospital, he came very sick. As news of Suyanarin's death spread, friends took to social media to extend condolences to his family and also expressed shock over the sudden death. Many claimed not to be aware that Suyanarin had been ill. However, some family members claimed he had started experiencing viral symptoms earlier in the week. Suyanarin operated a private practice in Tunapuna and was described as a selfless and humble soul. A female patient remembered him as someone who would do anything for anyone, a humble person who was never concerned about money. Another person on Facebook who had gone to school with Suyanarin said, "Gosh, he was one of the kindest and gentlest persons I knew throughout my UWI days till now." NWRHA's Alicia Back said, while Suyanarin had been a medical intern at the Port of Spain General Hospital at a point in time, he was not employed at NWRHA at the time of his death. Uncertain as to who was his employer, she said, "I received unconfirmed information he was no longer employed in the public healthcare system." There has been no response from Health Minister Terence Deyalsingh. Meanwhile, another Deyalsingh is shedding tears for his medical colleague and son who was taken too soon. Dr. Varma Deyalsingh commiserated, "We lost a colleague. R.I.P. Dr. Shival Suyanarin." Having graduated with the class of 2014, Deyalsingh recalled, "I knew him as a young doctor. I felt it for him and his family, the grief of his parents and loved ones. He had helped a lot of people in his short time. He will be missed by his friends and colleagues." The father of 3 cried, "I have shed tears for him, and I am concerned for my medical son and all the young medical soldiers." Commenting on Suyanarin's death, TNT Registered Nurses Association TTRNA President Edie Stewart urged officials to ensure that extensive contact tracing procedures are carried out, as he would have interacted with both patients and other healthcare professionals during the course of the last week. He said patients in the ICU are already immunocompromised, and they would have to be tested, not to scare their families, but given the condition they are in, they would be vulnerable. Stewart claimed the TTRNA continued to receive serious complaints almost on an hourly basis, where there are different policies in place at every RHA in terms of how they test and screen following a positive case within the facility. He said he intends to write the Ministry of Health to request a joint meeting with all the RHAs this week, adding urgent clarification was needed so all frontline workers will have clear guidelines on how to operate moving forward. In a wobbly and brittle tone, 36-year-old COVID-19 patient Rodney Baker spoke to Guardian Media via his cell phone. Warded at the Couva Hospital and multi-training facility, he is fearful that he might not make it, and his toddler boys, who already lost their mother to the virus last Sunday, will become parentless. You never know what could happen. I am here, but I am scared. I don't want to think negative, but I get scared a lot that I won't see my children, he bemoaned. The mental anguish seems to be even more than the physical pain for Baker, the father of a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. He said his fear of dying intensified when a fellow patient at the Couva Hospital, where he has been warded for nearly 2 weeks battling the virus, passed away last week. An emotional Baker said he calls his children every day, but the boys do not know that their mother has died, nor do they have a clue that their father is also in a labor to live. Baker said he does not know how he contracted the virus, as he insisted his family was very strict in following all COVID-19 protocols. The only place I could think of is my job, because as a sales rep, you does have to do plenty interacting and mingling, he speculated. All Baker recalled was that his wife and 2 young children quarantined along with him when he came down with a fever and flu-like symptoms 2 weeks ago and had to stay home from his job. But when his condition began to worsen and the sales rep was fighting to breathe, he was rushed by ambulance to the hospital. I went to the hospital before her and I got tested before her, he said. As he suspected, Baker's test read positive. His wife and 2 children were also subsequently tested. The results later revealed the children did not contract the virus, and they were sent to stay with Baker's sister. But the cards did not shuffle the same favorable deck for their mother. Sadly, the Port of Spain General Hospital medical orderly died on May 2, still awaiting her COVID status. She was quarantined at home, but she could not have made it at home because the fever was too strong, he said in a distressed tone, tearfully admitting he may need counseling to deal with the surreal situation. He said, I never thought it would have reached to that. Baker admitted, however, that his wife, 44, had developed gestational diabetes during her pregnancies that remained with her. Baker is also in some physical pain as parts of his lower extremities, ankles and feet, are severely swollen, a problem the doctors have advised developed as a result of bed confinement. But he said the pain does not match that of the crippling heartache he now minds over the loss of his wife and mother of his children. As unwell as he feels, Baker wants to give his wife her last rites. He is praying the last test he has to do will be negative, so he can see the love of his life one more time. Right now I am here trying to see how best I can come out to organize funeral arrangements, he said. Though the fear and the grief are great, he said he was currently relying on 3 things for strength: God, his children, and his mother. Activists say Rodney Baker's fear of his children suddenly becoming orphans is a genuine concern, especially now when TNT health officials have announced the virus is now affecting people in younger age brackets, while the severity of the illness has increased, also causing the recovery time to be much longer. At last Friday's press conference by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley to update the country on the increasing COVID-19 cases and announce additional measures to curtail the spread, Thoracic Medical Director at the Cara Hospital, Dr. Michelle Trotman, revealed that the virus was now claiming the lives of a younger demographic, those in their 30s and 40s. At last Friday's press conference by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley to update the country on the increasing COVID-19 cases and announce additional measures to curtail the spread, Thoracic Medical Director at the Cara Hospital, Dr. Michelle Trotman, revealed that the virus was now claiming the lives of a younger demographic, those in their 30s and 40s. We are now seeing a picture of a patient that is different in the peak than we experienced before, and that patient is somebody who most of us would know. It's a 30-year-old, a 35-year-old, a 40-year-old who is coming in very ill, Trotman noted. Last Friday, Jennifer Mahadeo, a 41-year-old page planner at a daily newspaper, died from the virus. Just 3 days ago, Guardian Media reported on the death of 38-year-old Nigel Ramkalawan. Commenting on the situation, social worker and family counselor Alsuna Boswell Jackson said, "I look on with bated breath because I believe that if we continue down the road that we are going and continue to ignore the restrictions being set by the government to curb the rising numbers of COVID cases, coupled with the decreasing availability of bed space, that we can mirror what is happening in India with children losing their parents to the virus." Last Thursday, Reuters reported that child rights activist groups were now rescuing children in India who have suddenly become orphans having lost their parents or caregivers to the virus, which has ravaged the South Asian Republic. India has been reporting an infection rate of 3.57 million, with daily new infections of up to 400,000. The situation is so grim, the groups have been asking for breastfeeding or breast milk donors for babies whose parents have fallen victim to COVID-19. But while medical consultant at the Breastfeeding Association of TNT-TobagoNews, Dr. David Bratt agrees there is cause for concern with TNT's increased cases and younger people becoming infected, he noted children could also be orphaned in the instances where a grandparent was the sole caretaker of the child. Regarding the need for breast milk donations should it come to that, he assured TBATT would be ready. The Breastfeeding Association of TNT would be able to assist the caretakers of any newborn whose parents have died from COVID or any other disaster with human milk. He added, "At the same time, I think we would have a better informal and formal setup here than in certain parts of India." Meanwhile, the founder and director of Mama Toto Resource and Birth Center, Deborah Lewis, believes with the restrictions in place and if they are well heeded, TNT should not get to the same place as India. She said, "I also believe that if we did get there, the children left behind would definitely be cared for, either by family members, friends, or if necessary through private and government contributions." Cop dies of COVID. PC Anthony Nicholson died on May 7th after spending 1 week at the Kuva Multi-Training Health Facility until his death. Nicholson started as a Special Reserve Officer at the Guard Unit in April 2003 before being drafted into the TNT Police Service TTPS, where he continued his service in the same unit.